Thank you for tuning in my channel. We got a great video for you today. Please subscribe and like for more videos like this. We will decide who had the better career and legacy. The rules of the bout is we will review career aspects into subcategories and we will see who scores better in each area. First area we're going to talk about is the professional boxing career. Felix Trinidad and Oscar De La Hoya both had 45 fights, as you see. Trinidad won 42. De La Hoya had won 39, while Trinidad has lost only 3 and De La Hoya has lost 6. Trinidad got 35 knockouts, while De La Hoya has 30. Trinidad's been knocked out once, while De La Hoya's been knocked out twice. It looks to me that Trinidad would win this one, so right now we got 1-0 for Trinidad. The next area we're going to be covering is weight class division records. Felix Trinidad at 147 was 36-0 with 30 knockouts. He moved up to junior middleweight at 154, which he was 3-0 with 2 knockouts, and then moved up to middleweight at 160, where he was 3-2 after a career retirement at 175 and fought Roy Jones, and he was 0-1-0. Now, Oscar De La Hoya, on the other hand, has been in a total of 6 weight class divisions. Okay, so we compared the lightweight and junior lightweight together. In 130 and 135 pounds, he was 23-0, and junior welterweight and welterweight, he was 11-3 between 140 to 147. At 154, he was 5-2, and at 160, he was 1-1. It looks like Trinidad have done better in weight class divisions. So that will be 2-0 for Trinidad. So, versing unbeaten fighters. Felix Trinidad fought Yuri Boy Campos when he was 56-0 with 50 knockouts. Obakar with 32-0 with 20 knockouts. De La Hoya himself at 31 with 25 knockouts. David Reed 14-0 with 7 knockouts. Poor guy was thrown in there. And Fernando Vargas, who was 20-18. Oscar De La Hoya, on the other hand, has 9 unbeaten fighters. The competition shows that the undefeated fighters, Trinidad, were better competition than the 5 undefeated fighters that Oscar De La Hoya had defeated. Yuri Boy Campos, Carr, De La Hoya, Reed, and Vargas were better than Britt, was better than Jimmy, Giorgio, Gennaro, Miguel. He was decent. And Felix Stern, it looks like at least beating them, Trinidad. But because he fought more unbeaten fighters, we will have to give this to Oscar De La Hoya. 2-1 Tito. Fighters that fought both Trinidad and De La Hoya. So this is an interesting aspect that's added into this equation. Lots of people felt De La Hoya fought people that after Trinidad fought them. De La Hoya had fought, he was 23-0 with 20 knockouts when he fought Pernell Whitaker, who was 40-1, considered undefeated at the time. And then Trinidad fought him a fight later, which he had soundly beat Pernell Whitaker. Felix Trinidad was 22-19 when he fought Hector Camacho at 43-2. Oscar De La Hoya fought Hector Camacho about 30 fights later. Then Trinidad fights Yuri Boy Campos when he was 56-0 with 50 knockouts. De La Hoya fights Yuri Boy about 40 fights after. Felix Trinidad at 24-0 versus Obakar at 32-0. Oscar De La Hoya fights Obakar. He was 30-0 and he fights Oba at 48-2. Felix Trinidad at 38-0 fights Vargas at 20-0, and right after that, Oscar De La Hoya fights Vargas. So, with that, when you look at this information, oh, there's more. Trinidad fights Bernard Hopkins. Wow, Trinidad was 40-0 with 33 knockouts. He had a better career against Hopkins when he went in there. De La Hoya fights him several fights later, and Hopkins has the better career than De La Hoya. Trinidad fights Mayorga, and then one fight later, Oscar De La Hoya fights Mayorga. If you look at this record, 26-4, many raise questions why Mayorga would even be someone important. We could get into that later on. Fighters who defeated Trinidad and De La Hoya. So Felix Trinidad was defeated by Bernard Hopkins, Ronald Winky Wright, Roy Jones, all three legends. Nothing to be ashamed at. Where De La Hoya had been defeated by Felix Trinidad himself, Sugar Shane Mosley 2 times, Bernard Hopkins, Floyd Mayweather, and Manny Pacquiao. In terms of this, I would have to give this to Oscar De La Hoya because of the amount of competition. So now it's 3-2 Tito. It's getting close. So Felix Trinidad is the longest reigning welterweight champion. He was champion for 6 years and 18 months. Title fights, Trinidad is 21-1. Successful title defenses, he's defended his belt 17 times. De La Hoya, however, has had 29 title fights. He's 24-5 with 17 defenses. This is a tough decision to make, but when you look at it, to reign for 6 years on one weight class is something that very few will ever do in the history of boxing. That's something to consider. The title fights, okay, he's 21-1. De La Hoya is 24-5, so he's got 3 more wins, but he also has 4 more losses. So when you break down the numbers with percent ratio, Felix Trinidad beats Oscar De La Hoya with a championship record. 4-2 Tito Trinidad. Championship belts. As you see, Felix Trinidad had unified the division at 147, had the WBC, IBF. He also had the WBA and IBF at 154 and had the WBA in middleweight. The only the minor titles he had was the North American belt when he beat Mayorga, while Oscar De La Hoya has lots of belts. So he has the junior lightweight, light welterweight champion. 2 times he had the WBC at 147, and he had the WBC light middleweight 154 2 times, the WBA middleweight 154, WBO middleweight at 160, and the minor titles are IBA welterweight and IBA middleweight. So based on the information here, it is clear that Oscar De La Hoya beats Tito in this area. 4-3, it's getting close. Now, competition analytics with unbeaten champions. Felix Trinidad has Oscar De La Hoya at 31-0, Fernando Vargas at 20-0, and David Reed at 14-0, where De La Hoya has Jimmy Beretta at 16-0 and Felix Stern at 20-0. So these were the unbeaten champions who were unbeaten champions at the time they were fighting. Judging on this info, I think it's pretty clear. Most people would agree. Trinidad wins in this area. 5-3 Trinidad. Okay, lightweight and welterweight championship defense record. This right here will tell you what type of champion they really were. Were they real champions? Well, let's find out. Felix Trinidad at 147 had 15 defenses. With the WBC welterweight, he never defended it. He clinched it after he beat De La Hoya and moved up at 154. De La Hoya successfully defended the WBO at 130 once. He defended the lightweight 135 6 times successfully. And junior welterweight, he defended it once. And at WBC at 147, he successfully defended it 6 times and lost twice. When you look at the information here, it appears that as a champion, Tito Trinidad was more stable and had the more consistent record in this area. Junior middleweight and middleweight championship records. So Trinidad had no defenses on the IBF. He knocked out Vargas and moved up to 160, so he ended up giving up the titles. At WBA junior middleweight 154, he actually defended it 2 times. He fought 2 people before he fought Vargas, so he definitely has legit defenses. And then he had 1 defense with the WBA middleweight, which he lost to Hopkins. Oscar De La Hoya has got the 154. He got the WBC at 154 2 times, defended it twice, lost it twice. WBA middleweight, he defended it once, lost it once. The WBO middleweight at 160, he defended it and lost it. The minor titles, he's lost both defenses. The IBF in welterweight, which was against Shane Mosley, and the IBA middleweight, which was against Bernard Hopkins. In theory, when you look at all these defenses, it would suggest that Oscar, actually, you know what? I would have to debate this one, because with all these losses, he only got one win over him, but he got a lot of losses. Trinidad only got one loss, so we're gonna have to give this to Trinidad. Fights against champions. Felix Trinidad got a record of 12-3 with 7 knockouts, while Oscar De La Hoya has 20 wins and 6 losses against champions. Clearly, without debate, Oscar won that one. Felix wins against champions. These are the people. We're just going to break down the competition, who had the better competition. Jake Rodriguez, Maurice Blocker, Camacho, Campos, Pedlington. Freddie, he was a good fight, even though he had a lot of losses. Whitaker, De La Hoya, Reed, Vargas, Joppy, Sharifi, and Mayorga. So they're decent. These are decent champions, actually. A couple legends in there. Let's see what Oscar has. At lightweight, John Molina was good. Miguel Ruelas. Those were the two. Jesse James Leija, but the real champion that takes noteworthy is Julio Cesar Chavez. On welterweight, yes, he got a great. Those are great champions. Whitaker, Camacho, Corte, Gotti. And middleweight, Castillo, Vargas, Campos, Stern, Mayorga, and Forbes. You know what? I'm going to give this to Oscar De La Hoya on the account that Julio Cesar Chavez was such a significant win. So we're going to put 5-8. Significant victories in boxing career. With Felix Trinidad, Hector Camacho, Pernell Whitaker, who's a golden Olympic gold medalist, De La Hoya, Olympic gold medalist, David Reed, Olympic gold medalist, Fernando Vargas, one of the youngest champions ever, Joppy, a natural middleweight champion that he knocked out, by the way. Ricardo Mayorga, who beat Vernon Forrest 2 times after Forrest defeated a undefeated Shane Mosley 2 times. Those were huge. De La Hoya's big win was Julio Cesar Chavez 2 times, Pernell Whitaker, controversial win, Camacho, Corte, Vargas, Trinidad beat first, and Mayorga, Trinidad beat first. I'm going to have to give this to Tito, because it's clear as day. Tito definitely had the better significant victories than Oscar De La Hoya. Marquee fighters in boxers' career. So Trinidad fought Camacho, Whitaker, De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins, Winky Wright, Roy Jones. De La Hoya, Chavez, Whitaker, Camacho, Trinidad, Shane Mosley, Hopkins, Mayweather, and Pacquiao. I would have to give this to Oscar De La Hoya. Now, I've made some assessments. You guys might disagree with me, so I'm interested in what you guys have to say, okay? Take care and have a good day.